Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible in all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your paranoid, suspicious hosts. Joining me as always is our other paranoid and suspicious host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
I am so excited about this topic. So I'll start by telling you about my LA vacation.
Oh, please do.
By LA, I mean Los Angeles in the state of California.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know.
Right. So I was texting you throughout my trip because things were happening, and I was remind me to tell you about the robot cars and delivery vehicles, and you were like, oh, have you ridden in a Waymo? And I was like, okay, yes. I want to wait until we get on pod to talk about this. Uh-huh. So all of our Bendys can also hear me ask you, have you ridden in a Waymo?
Have you ridden in a Waymo, Beth?
Never. So a Waymo is a robotic, free driving itself taxi.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. And they have all these wheels going. I don't even know what these, it must be
they're like sensors images, and stuff, aren't they?
I don't know, but there's one on each side and on the top. So the whole thing just looks like it's vibrating, and sometimes they have people in them, but there's not really ever, they can seat 5 because I guess you can sit in the driver's seat and not actually drive the car. So the Waymos are everywhere, and I have one child that is super pro Waymo and one child that is very anti Waymo. So every time we go on, one would be like, yeah, and they would be like, and then there are these because I don't live in a city, and this I know this is happening in cities now. There's a new company, I think it's called Coco or something, and they're maybe 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet boxes, with wheels and antennas, and these little delivery robots that drive around everywhere. So you're standing at a stoplight waiting to cross the street, and you turn around and there's 3 of these delivery robots behind you, and you're who has the right of way? I guess I'll walk. And they censor, they have the sensors so they know where you are, and they kind of move around, and it's the craziest thing seeing delivery robots just roaming the streets. Did you see those? Are there
drones as well? Have you seen the delivery drones?
I saw no delivery drones, but they're definitely robots on the ground that show up at a place. The people come out, they put the things in, and then they drive away and deliver it 2 blocks down the street or whatever people do in the cities. Because, it's that quote in LA Story where he's he drives 40 feet to get to his best friend's house.
Yes.
And I'm walking in LA no one does it.
That is absolutely some LA shit. That was the thing that I found the hardest the first time I visited there was... I was there as a student, and it was well, I guess we'll use public transport because, you think about the public transport in the UK, and it's a fucking nightmare. Yeah. An absolute disaster. Yeah. So, did you... Sorry, I've had a headphone malfunction, so apologies. Go on ahead, continue with what you're saying.
Well, I just wanted to ask you while you're fixing your headphone, did you get in a Waymo when you were there?
No, I did not. I did not even see one. I don't think I even knew they fully existed whenever I... first went there. I think I'm just going to have to hold my hand to my ear. That's fine.
You look very Star Trek-y right now.
Right? It is. It's giving real Star Trek vibes. So I don't think I knew they exist. I don't remember seeing one when I was there.
Okay.
But I may have. I don't believe so. But I would have been curious. I was there so briefly this time round. I was there basically in an overnight, and I went for a hike. So I wasn't really around that many. I wasn't really in downtown really that much either. But I probably would try one. I think I would. I'm curious, I must say.
I think this is a question I want to ask people. Would you get in a robot car or not?
Well, I mean, here's the thing for me. It's would you trust a robot more or a human more? Because it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah. If we were all in Waymos, right? Traffic was horrible. There was an accident. The cement truck was tipped over on the 5.
Oh, no.
On the 5, right?
On the 5,
This is how we talk in California when we're in LA. All you do is talk about streets and ways to get places.
And roadworks.
Yes. But I was like, well, if everyone was in Waymos, like, then there wouldn't be car accidents, really. And that's not actually true, because, like, they get stuck on, I've heard they get stuck on, like, train tracks and stuff, and then, like, the train hits them, or, yeah.
No,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. And Mike, he showed me a video yesterday of one of those Coco, like, delivery machines just getting fucking railed in the middle of an intersection. The car didn't see it, because they're only 2.5 feet tall. Right? You're not looking at that level, and it just obliterated it. So that's a design change. Anyways, so LA was great. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how much an arcade game is on the Santa Monica Pier? You're like, oh, I'm gonna play a game of Super Mario, original Super Mario Brothers.
Sure. Can I make a guess?
Yeah.
$5.
Close. $2.
Oh, okay. All right. I was really going.
And that doesn't even come with tickets. They don't do tickets anymore, Andy. It's all on a card. And then you're like, well, I'm waiting in line for... I just like... things are changing. And it's upsetting.
Yeah.
But I was a kid that loved getting the tickets. So I would go and I would get the plastic cup that was worth $25 that said Chuck E. Cheese on it, you know?
And you spent like $100 to get that
basically
on arcade machines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So... also, for those of you who know Venice Beach, I ran into Harry Perry, who's the guy with the turban who like rollerblades around with his guitar. Okay. And I've seen him every time I go to Venice because I love him. And like, it's to the point now where if I walk by, he looks at me and points at me and he's like, "It's you." And I'm like, "Yay.
Nice.
Harry Perry, what's up?" So I saw Harry Perry. I bought now he has t-shirts for $30. I highly recommend if you see him, buy it because he'll get a free CD and he'll like play music for you. So he sang us a couple songs. We hung out, we chit-chatted, and it was lovely. So he's like a staple of Venice Beach.
I'm just looking him up. He looks cool as hell.
He is fucking cool as hell. It's like, you know, it's kind of like the whole time I was like, he reminds me, and he probably knew like Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
They were all like on the Venice Beach area together, and he's about that age. So, anyways.
Have I told you about the guy I met on the Amtrak train many years ago? So, okay, after I was in University of North Carolina, a friend and I bought an Amtrak rail pass, like a 30-day rail pass. At one point in that journey, we took a 36-hour train from Chicago all the way down to Arizona, I believe. Basically, like, it was horrifying.
Did you have
like,
a sleeper car?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've done that from like Portland to Oxnard, and that was like 22 hours. And I just drank.
And I was like,
I just drank gin.
Like I was broke as shit, so I couldn't afford anything. So it was just brutal. And like my friend who I was with, he could sleep just fine, and I couldn't sleep at all.
Of course.
So like I went down. I found like a smoking car that had somewhere I could lie down. I tried to sleep there. It was a disaster because like essentially after like 30 minutes, and I got me 30 minutes of sleep. These kids came down and started fooling around and blah blah blah.
Oh my god!
And right, it's just like it was a load of bullshit. And then right, this guy turned up. This guy, long grey hair, sleeveless t-shirt, like you know, just kind of like really cool looking, like some tattoos and stuff like that, like a beard. And like he just started like speaking wisdom to these kids in a really kind of lovely. Like I was 21 at the time. I was still kind of a kid too, but like he was just speaking wisdom to these kids, and. Lovely guy. I ended up talking to him. We had a nice time. And he's just like, do you want to like hang out? Do you want to go and get breakfast together? And I was like, absolutely. And we had, and like I think it was my first time getting biscuits and gravy because that's all I could afford on the train. And he was just a lovely dude. And he like gave me his card. I think I still have it somewhere. It's essentially like it was a Dayglow American dollar with him like rocking out on guitar in like the centerpiece. It fucking ruled. He was called Chuck Watts. He had roadie for Hendrix and all this sort of stuff, and he was just the fucking coolest guy. The part I remember most clearly about him, and it will stay with me for the rest of my life, is I think I might have told you this before. He described like he was just telling me all these stories, and I love people like that. I love people that are just like, let me tell you my shit because I'm a receptive audience and I'm curious. Yes. And he talked about taking this woman to a cabin. And he described her taking her shirt off, and he goes, "Man, it was like a Buick was driving towards me." And that description has stayed with me for the rest of my life. But he was a rad guy. I hope he's still out there because he was just the best. And it was such a he made that trip bearable. And it was funny because another friend of mine who was also doing somewhat similar but at a different schedule also bumped into him and had met him at a different time. And I can't remember what it was. Mike had told me about somehow because he met Mike after he met me, and he said something about me saying basically along the lines of, "Man, if you were drowning, that guy would be the first guy that jumped in the river to save you," and it really touched me. And that it was that description to Mike that made him go, "Was that Andy?" And I was like, "Oh, guys."
It's
so
true,
yeah,
though.
that was very sweet.
It's true.
That is true. It is true. But yeah, sorry, that was have I told you that story? Or is that a new one?
You told me that you met some guy that was a roadie, but not
not all of it.
Words of wisdom, no, and not the Buick.
Not the
Buick.
yeah, the Buick. Anyway, tangent. Okay,
I'm gonna have to use that and pass it off as my own. Good job.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's okay. So since I spoke to you last, I have went on a lovely holiday.
Where'd you go?
My girlfriend went to Donegal for a long weekend. It was lovely.
Here we pronounce
so it was right.
Donegal.
Well, that's the incorrect way. Yes. So it was basically right up the north there, and it was just lovely. It was a wee kind of cabin, and it was just so lovely just to kind of get away. Basically didn't look at my phone for 2 days solid, and was just absolutely lovely. So my girlfriend and I and both of our dogs. So at the minute, how we've been talking about it is that it was Andy and his 3 girlfriends, because whenever we first started dating, I said, look, I need to warn you, Sasha thinks Sasha thinks I'm her boyfriend, and soon enough her dog fell in love with me too.
I would
we think
say all
so.
Animals will just eventually fall in love with you,
right?
Regardless. So having experienced that myself with all my pets,
that's true,
and any animals in the vicinity. So yes,
it's true.
Yes.
So it was lovely, and it was just lovely spending some time away. It really was. Also, in some fairly seismic news, especially for people who listen to this podcast a lot, I have quit the choir. Da, da, da. Step down.
Good job.
I officially told. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was hard work.
How'd it go?
It was fun. I think.
You're done.
And we talked about this.
You're not easy
I'm done.
now.
Done. I'm not. No, I mean I am working through to the end of this term, but that finishes next Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to just be mic drop, I'm out of here, because that would have really shafted them. But I was I am stepping down at the end of this term. It's nearly over. And they took it well enough. I think they did, because I'd already floated the idea, so it wasn't completely out of the blue. But yeah.
How's it feel?
Weird, but I'm happy about it, because it's been such a stressor for me. The whole. Jeez, the whole 2 years I have loved it, but it has been more than anything a source of stress to me, and I'm kind of glad that I don't have it anymore, because it's also in terms of potential earnings and things like that, it has always been a weird sort of situation. It's because I'm also the one who's trying to apply for funding, and that and funding, as anybody who knows who's applied for funding, can collapse very quickly, especially for social things,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it has been so unreliable, and it's very much a thing where I'm I need to focus on stuff that's going to earn me money, and not give me stress all the time, if possible, would be nice, So, we'll see, but I'm very happy that it's happened. Long time coming, and yeah, much needed.
I'm so proud of you. We've talked
Thank
about
you.
this. Just the concept of having to step down from something and tell people something they don't want to hear, and you removing yourself from something, if it's a job or a volunteer position, it's so hard. It's so hard. It
really is. And I do feel guilty, but I'm also kind of as has been pointed out, and to other people that I have worked with, they're good for you, because they know how much work it is, and the people that often do the kind of organising and all the kind of really kind of crap work, people don't really realise how much there is to it until they actually do it, you know? And so it's like, I will not say it was thankless, because a lot of people are very kind of have really expressed a lot of kind words to me and continue and have over the years. But it just is sometimes is like, I can't keep doing this, you know, if most of what I get out of it is kind of stress, you know, and it's making other parts of my life difficult, and I'm just like, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore.
There you go. No, but like for other, you know, for listeners, hey, maybe Andy talking about it for a year and then actually doing it.
It's not like that.
I'm gonna do this too, just so you don't feel bad. Sorry guys, he's fucking with his headphones.
I know, it's driving me crazy. No. Right, I might. Beth, can you vamp for a minute, and I'll fix it properly, because it's going to drive me insane.
No, it's totally fine. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Hollywood and LA.
Okay.
So, you had talked about doing a hike in Los Angeles. We also did a hike. So we went up to the there's a lot of different hikes up in the hills, but we did the one that takes you through like Rodeo Drive and Beverly Hills and like up to the Griffiths Observatory. Yeah. And then, so we got to do the hike, which was in...
Oh, I love that. Round the bottom of the observatory? Yeah.
No, we were, So it started...
You kind of like, what I mean is you kind of go up to the observatory and there's like paths you can go down to from the... Is it those ones?
So we went up instead of down so we could get closer to... It was like a half mile because small legs and whiny children. But it was just so... Like, I was like, oh, I love LA. Like, I forget that occasionally, like, when you're in traffic and people are being so horrible. Like, it's such a great... It's just like when you're above it all and you see the gravity of it and you see how much it influences the rest of... Not even that. It's just like... We watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit the other night. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, awesome movie. B, I didn't recognize how many times I've seen it and how many lines I know, right? So but like that was filmed there, and we were driving to the Griffith Observatory and we went through the tunnel that takes you to Toontown. And I was like, you guys, this is the tunnel. And they were like, oh my god, it's Toontown on the other side. Yeah, so it was super cool. Anyways,
that rocks. I love it. I don't know, because like, you know, when I went up to Griffith, I didn't go through a tunnel that I recall. That's very cool. I suppose I didn't realize that was a real place, but I guess it makes sense that it is.
Yeah. So
love it.
I know, it was great. So do you have any occurring, or do you want to move on to our?
I do, and it's kind of related to, our topic. So I saw a T-shirt the other day. I'm blinded now because I've just opened the link. And the T-shirt said, I can't take Benadryl because I owe the Hat Man money and I don't want to see him, right? And I was like, what? What? I had no idea of what this could possibly mean, and that's exactly the sort of shit that I love, and I like, I need to find out about this. So I did some... Yeah, and I'm like,
okay, can I guess?
So...
Is it the Monopoly Man?
No.
Okay.
But you know what Benadryl is, and I think it's an American thing, right? So like, okay, so there is a known phenomenon called the Black Hat Man or the Benadryl Hat Man, and it's one of the most frequently reported hallucinations among individuals experiencing methamphetamine psychosis and other substance-induced altered states.
Okay.
And basically, what happens is, in those states, they will see a man in the corner, like a dark man with a black hat on, and it's really interesting. Like, so, and it happens in Benadryl as well. If you OD in Benadryl, it can happen via that too. And so I started like researching it a little bit, and there are like, you know, some people are like, he doesn't necessarily feel like a bad thing. It might actually be like a kind of a kindly sort of presence. Some people are deeply unsettled by him. So interesting. I was like, well, this is a whole subculture I had no idea about.
What did the shirt say again?
The shirt said, Oh no, hold on a minute. I closed it down. Basically, the shirt said, "I don't want to take Benadryl because because if I do, I'll see the Hat Man, and I owe him money."
Oh my God.
It's a so basically it's a kind of like a layer upon layer joke of, you know, it's basically like a, you know, supposing a relationship with the Bendy Hat Man, that means you have borrowed money off him, you know, which is, you know, obviously farcical.
Or
but, yeah.
like there's a subculture of people that take so much Benadryl that they hallucinate.
That they hallucinate, yeah,
and
that they hallucinate,
and
maybe.
And then they put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I love that. I love the t-shirt side of it so much. I also just like the whole, like, you know, thought of, like, you know, having a psychotic sort of like hallucination and asking to borrow money off the guy really quite tickles me,
like,
you know.
So in my 20s I used Benadryl as a sleep aid with alcohol, right, as you do. And I never saw the Hat Man. That's why I'm so interested. I'm like, did I see him? Was he there? Was I too drunk to notice?
Maybe he's just thought it was just another guy that that just happened to be in the corner. But yeah,
or I talked to him.
So like,
because that's what I do in dreams. I just
perhaps.
sit and I was doing it the other night. I had like 3 conversations with 3 people, and I'm like, okay, there's no like flying. It's just chatting.
That's just nice too. Like, I mean, you know, considering what dreams can do to you sometimes.
That's true.
In fairness, some people have said that like
that's fucking weird.
Right? There are mixed reports of people saying they see the Hat Man when they were lucid again in the future as well. Right? And it's so interesting. It's exactly the sort of weird shit, and I suppose it is a conspiracy theory to tie into today's, you know, topic. But it's just such. I think, you know, conceptually shared hallucinations are such a fascinating thing. You know, so yeah.
People have drawn this. There's like images. It's fucking freaky. Some of them not so much, but like, oh wow, you guys, this is a big deal, isn't it? So like, I mean, like, it's exactly the sort of weirdo shit that I love, but like they're like on Twitter or whatever, they're like, me after taking 17 Benadryl and start seeing the Hat Man. What the fuck? What the fuck did you step in here, Andy? Andrew?
Exactly the sort of insane shit I like to step in.
Okay,
but yeah, and I had found this even before we had talked about the topic today. I'd found this and I wanted to talk about it in this week's episode, but like, it really does kind of tie into, I think, because it is kind of a conspiracy. Like, and I mean, like, they talk a little bit about, like, you know, the X-Files style stuff, which very much, you know, lives in the realm of conspiracy theories and things like that.
Wow.
Which brings us
to our topic. Good job. Sorry, I'm just down I'm on Reddit.
You're just down a freaking.
I'm in my Reddit mind garden.
Your Benadryl Hat Man friggin' nightmare spiral.
I don't even do the rest of the day.
I know.
Oh. Okay.
So I have. I mean, you can tell me what you think about this, but like, I've been thinking about titling this episode "Conspiracy Theories: Not as fun as they used to be." But let me know if you think.
No, I agree with that. Actually, some of them I was like,
conspiracies.
We can't talk about this, or we can't talk about this,
or
we can't talk about this, because like, they came true.
So yeah, but we're just going to talk about conspiracy theories and
the ones we like.
Yeah, the ones, the chill ones, you know, the fun ones, like, that they, you know, talked about in X-Files and stuff, not the completely kind of messed up ones that, like, are affecting our everyday lives, you know.
I've had some of those, but only because, like, I'm interested and I have some thoughts.
Okay, do you have any ones you want to kind of lead off with or something? I was like, has just occurred to me.
Okay, I just want to give the definition. So, conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy, generally by powerful, sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. I like that.
Interesting.
I know. It's a good definition. So, I live in a part of the country where, like, there are planes flying overhead that are, like, running drills all the time. So let's start with chemtrails.
Yeah.
Do you know what a chemtrail is?
Love it.
Okay.
Great one to start with.
I
do.
So basically, it's known as they call it a SLAP. It's the Secret Large Scale Atmospheric Program. And they think that the water condensation, not they, people think that the water condensation that you see that comes after the plane as it flies is like full of toxins, and then all of that like rains down on us or whatever.
Yep.
And so they say that 17% of the population globally believe in the theory, that it's true or partly true. The Carnegie Institution actually did a study. It was a peer-reviewed study, which this shit is my jam. I love a good peer-reviewed Carnegie Institute of Science study. So basically all the scientists are like, yeah, it's just water vapor, and we sampled it, and it's water vapor. But I know people who are related to people that believe in chemtrails and believe it's a thing, and like, so
interesting.
I know. So like, I don't know. It's like the other conspiracy theory that like sometimes planes just open up their the poop chute and let all of the like shit out of the plane and urine out of the plane, and it just kind of rains down and wherever, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Like on chemtrails, like my general but like so many conspiracy theories, and like, you know, I tend to look at humans, even on a macro scale, and go, we're like mostly not as smart as we think we are, right?
Yeah.
and like
we
the
can't
level
decide
of,
if Pluto is a planet or not. So
yeah, I don't like, and also who cares, and also like, you know, why there's the level of secrecy required to like hide a conspiracy theory, it absolutely collapse. And like so many of the like big conspiracy theories, there absolutely would have been credible witnesses that would have come forward. Like, you know, the moon landings is such a big one in terms of like, to do something on that scale, there's no way there wouldn't have been a whistleblower. But you know, like they talk about, there's some sort of theory, some sort of mathematical thing where it's kind of like, once you involve a certain number of people, the amount of time you can keep something a secret, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's why I'm kind of so dubious about,
because humans can't
all of that stuff.
Can't keep secrets.
Because I can't keep secrets.
I think you're right. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Like, and I think that, like, you know, there are definitely some conspiracy theories that have turned out to be true, and there is some like weird and wonderful shit that does happen out there. And I think then that, you know, if one kind of nuts thing turns out to be true, then it's easy to kind of go, well, if that was true, then ergo, you know, where it's like they're completely separate things, you know, they're completely, you know. So yeah, I you know, I think we've talked about X-Files and stuff before. We've already talked about it in this episode.
I love X-Files.
So do I. I remember in the 90s being obsessed with like conspiracy theories on X-Files. I read a book on X-Files and things about, like, you know, spontaneous human combustion and things like that, and those sorts of concepts,
yes,
right?
I've seen those photos.
Yeah. And like, I find all that stuff fascinating, you know, and I was so engaged with it and so curious about that, and curious about, you know, ghosts and which are, you know, I suppose aren't necessarily a conspiracy theory, but like, do you know what I mean? Like that sort of like realm of the unknown. But like, I think that they have become, and I feel like I've definitely made this point in the podcast before as well, like they, you know, what a conspiracy theorist is now compared to what it was in the 90s when we were watching the X-Files are two very different things.
I would agree with that. And it, you know, I almost like, when you're like, should we do this as our podcast topic? And I was like, or conspiracy theories? And then I was like, or is that too like Joe Rogan of us? Right? Is that too Joe Rogan? Right? Because so many, and you know, neither good nor bad, but like so many theories are being talked about by people that are credible and not on really, really big platforms.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's probably, I mean, obviously conspiracy theories are very interesting, but that's kind of the phenomenon of them becoming real, and like flat earthers becoming...
Yeah.
There's a logo Let me try and show it to you.
For flat earthers?
Yes, they have a logo. I'm trying to show you. Here. Here's the logo for the flat earthers. I found that.
All right.
So I think a lot of it, like, we can talk about like them individually, but like as a whole, I think there's probably a kernel of truth to everything.
Yeah.
Not that
I think there's a reason why a lot of these things exist.
Yeah, but I also think that I'm just agreeing with you. That
I also think that it's a little bit. I think one of the big drivers for a lot of this stuff is that feeling that you have some sort of secret knowledge that a lot of the rest of the world doesn't have, and you know how that makes people feel. You know, because like I get that as well. Like I absolutely get that. Mm-hmm. But like I think that can be like the desire to like feel you're in that position is very easy to manipulate as well. You know.
Yes, and I also think there's like a semblance of a desire to like not be able to be in control. This is me going off like on a tangent, but you know, the moon landing wasn't real, so like we have no control over this like sector of like NASA isn't real, and you know, and then that feeds the companies that are building bunkers for millionaires.
This is another big part of the problem. Is like now once money's involved and there's a way to extract cash off people by feeding this information, it becomes even more insidious and even more dangerous.
Well, and it's like I was thinking about chemtrails, and I'm like, okay, so say they are raining down toxins on all of us, then like who would be paying the scientists to not, you know, say what is true and say that it's all water vapor, and it's like, you know, the airline companies, and we know that these things happen, you know, behind closed doors. So, but to what extent? So when I say there's like a kernel of truth, probably somewhere in there, it's like, well, how much? Like what percentage? And like my husband works in water science, so he's always just like, you know, like, yes, there's, you know, like a certain amount of this chemical or that metal in what you're eating or drinking, but like based on how much, the percentage, like it's a buzzword instead of something that's harmful.
But isn't it also like, I mean, the other thing I think as well is that like certainly with things like that is that the reality of what's going on with water, for example, is very complex.
Oh, yes.
And like you probably need to have a certain level of education in that area to really fully understand it. So it's like, how do you communicate that to then the average person who maybe wants to know that information? So like it's much easier to like present these big, you know, there's whatever in the water, this really dangerous chemical, you know, rather than getting into the complexities of why that might be the case.
So that's nice. It's nice to have someone in my life where I'm like, oh my God, this thing. And he's like, you know, actually, it's not a big deal at all.
I think it's why it's important to listen to people who like have an education in these things. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and I always, if I know somebody has done the work, I'm like, tell me, you know what I mean? Because like, there's so much I don't know, so much.
So, do you have any specific ones that you want to talk about?
I kind of do. Do you want to lead off? I mean, I really do want to talk about the moon landing because I did mention that earlier.
I do too. I'm obsessed.
Okay, let's talk about the moon landing then. I also want to talk about the JFK assassination, and I also
me
want
too.
to talk about that. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay.
So we do moon landing first?
Yes. I almost brought my props because I have all of the NASA photos of moon landing.
It's such an interesting one.
It is.
And like, I think it's a great one because it kind of does feel surreal that anybody landed on the moon in the late 60s. It's crazy to me, considering where technology was at that time. You know? So I think there's such a fertile ground to think it's a conspiracy theory in there.
So you don't think the moon landing happened? Oh
no, I definitely do think it happened.
Okay.
But I'm saying that
there's a kernel of truth.
I'm saying that because I think because it feels outlandish, because I think it does. Like I feel like it was such an incredible leap forward that it would be easy to say to somebody, well, it doesn't feel quite real, does it? And like see that idea, you know.
So there's a movie that just came out. I think it's called Fly Me to the Moon with like Scarlett Johansson. Yes. I started to watch it, but Mike was like, I'm bored. I was like, it's the moon landing. Stop it. But basically, there's a theory that the moon landings were staged, and this movie kind of goes into that. But there's the theory that they were staged. The moon landing was filmed in like a NASA studio, and the director that was involved was Stanley Kubrick.
Yes,
which I love. I didn't know that until until 10 minutes before we started recording, when I was doing my research. Anyways, so, but it was like, at the same time, we were trying to beat the United States was trying to beat the Soviets to be the first one to land on the moon. And there's also like, I get this concept of like, okay, it was like the same time where TV would go off at the same time every night. It would be like that horrible sound, and like it had the image, and it was like the Howdy Doody show was on, and like, you know, technology wasn't quite where it is now. And how did you broadcast from another planet an entire moon landing, right, and televise it into everyone's houses?
I mean, it really does feel outlandish, and I think, and like, and it really is kind of mind blowing. But like, I think like,
and then we never did it again.
Well, this is also true because it was so bloody expensive and like dangerous. I think that like,
or how do you recreate that?
Well, this is it. Like, I think the reason why we didn't do it again is because there's no money in it. Like, I mean, there maybe will be long term, but that's the reason why so many things happen. And like, I think that, you know, when you really take a step back and you look at like what was happening in the world at the time, and like how at loggerheads the USSR and America was at that time, and you see that as that's what it was about. It was about, we're going to beat them, we're going to show you them where this. Then it makes a lot more sense why they would throw so many resources, so much, you know, so much time to make this happen, to make it happen, because it was a point of pride, a point, you know. So like, I think it becomes easier to like see the reality of it whenever you kind of think about the larger picture, you know.
Do you think that like we landed on the moon, but we recorded it in a studio? You don't have
I don't think so.
No, you think it happened? I think it happened. Like, we can't make this shit up, right?
I don't think there's any way that it wouldn't have come out by now, truly. Like, I just don't. And like, I also completely understand why the hoax exists, you know, like, the conspiracy theory exists, because of like, it's so compelling, and it was such a like, but it like, what's really makes me sad is that it is, you know, no matter what way you cut it, it is such an incredible achievement by humanity, you know, and specifically the people that did it, and it so undermines that, you know. Mm-hmm.
I just stood in Neil Armstrong's footprints at outside the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and I was just like, this is weighty, this is heavy, this is like, what they accomplished was really, really amazing.
Like, it's the people that go up to Buzz Aldrin and like try to like hassle him about it. It's just like fucking crazy to me. Yeah. Crazy to me. Like, I also can't understand.
It's like if Jeff Bezos can go to space. Sorry.
Right? Exactly.
Don't hunt us down, please.
No. Yeah.
Go for Andy first.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please. And I am like, you know, I am absolutely sympathetic to people that like want to like believe this stuff, you know, but like, whenever you're actually going out in the real world and, you know, actually challenging people who have done it, I don't know. There's lines that just seem to be crossed. That seems to happen so kind of quickly. You know, it's just kind of a bit crap, I think. Any more thoughts on the moon landing?
Do you want to talk about JF?
Yes, I do. I think it's such an interest.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Sorry, I think we have a little bit of delay on the Zoom. Can you hear
do
me?
we? Yeah, I can hear you. Is that so? Does that sound okay now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Don't forget, guys, we're doing this in the United States and Ireland, so
Yeah.
we're doing our
maybe
best.
I'll cut this. We'll see how it goes.
Leave it.
Yeah, okay, leave it in.
Minimum effort. Okay, so I'm good on the moon landing. We also we had Mike's dad bought a bevy. We have like 150 different photos from NASA of the moon landing that he got from some estate sale, and just like I've gone through every single photo and categorized it, and like with white gloves, and like I've seen the photographic evidence, and I do believe that it did happen. So.
I absolutely, I think so. But I think it really sheds us an interesting light on why these things happen, and so on. But like, I think that the JFK is really even honestly more interesting in that regard, and the conspiracy theory around it. Because like,
been to Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Did you do the tour?
I did.
I did too.
Fascinating. So fascinating. And like you see where he shot from, you're like, huh.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
And
it's a very odd macabre thing.
What I thought was so interesting, and I can't remember where I saw this point in comparison I was looking for, and I couldn't find it, was people talked about JFK assassination. It was assassinated, and there's so much conspiracy. There's a big conspiracy theory about it, about being a second, possibly even a third shooter, and all those sorts of things. And then they talk about like other assassination attempts. So, for example, Ronald Reagan in the 80s, and why it doesn't have conspiracy theories, and it's some really interesting stuff. Like they talk about what the nature of these things, what it says about the nature of some of these things that makes them live in the larger consciousness, and makes people start questioning them. But yeah, I thought I'll talk about that more in a minute. But I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so, for those of you who haven't been to Dallas and haven't stood on the grassy knoll, it's a weird feeling. To stand where, I mean, we've all seen, you see it in movies, you see it on the news, like it's just like this thing that we all see as people that watch television. You see him being assassinated over and over and over again throughout your life.
Yeah.
You see Jackie, trying to run away and then sitting back down and trying to hold his brains in his head. Like it was a horrible thing that happened. And in Dallas, they have a book depository museum that you can go to. You see the window that he shot out of. You can stand right where he stood, and you see the part that got me was you actually see the place setting that Kennedy was supposed to sit down and eat from, and they put that in the museum, and I was like, that's weird.
That is weird. I don't recall that.
Yeah, so it's like, it's enclosed in glass, but that was, what he was, if things had gone differently, he would have eaten off that place setting, and it wouldn't be in a museum. So, I also read that there have been over 1,000 books written about the assassination and different theories about why and how, and I think that it was kind of like, this was right around the time the Vietnam War was, kicking into gear. We were coming out of the 1950s, and that idea of like the nuclear family and, life being perfect. And Kennedy represented that, they call it the Camelot.
Yes.
It represented sort of in a lot of people's minds, sort of this like perfect time in American history, even though we had the Cuban Missile Crisis and all these other things were happening. Whatever. So to have him be like, everyone remembers, if you talk to anybody, probably in your country too, like, where were you when Kennedy was shot? Or like, do you remember the day? Like, everybody remembers where they were at that exact moment.
It's interesting that, funny, we talked about in a previous episode, Beth got me to read Prayer for Old Meanie recently. I loved it, but they talk a little bit about it, because they talk about the significance of Kennedy as a president, because I think he was the first Catholic president.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's correct, and like what a big deal that was. It was the first time that happened, and how controversial that was, and things like that as well. So it made him such a sort of like unique figure to be in the presidency.
Yeah, and they had babies. Like they created a family. It was like everyone was watching, kind of like the life that they all wanted to be living, and it was that. I used to, in college, I was like obsessed with Woodstock and obsessed with the Kennedys and the Kennedy assassination. So I used to go up, we called it like the stacks, where like they keep all the old like Time magazine and Life magazine. Like you have the entire history of both magazines, and I would go and I would pull the Life magazines for the Kennedy assassination. I still have some. Like people gift me
cover,
Yeah.
It's such a famous one, yeah.
It is, but I have like a whole. I used to have them framed, and Mike was like, "This is weird." Like we were starting creating, and all, like Kennedy assassinated, and like in a frame, and like a widowed like Jackie O, and he's like, "Why do you have all these assassination posters all over your house?" And I was like, "I guess that's weird, yeah,
Yeah, that's good. Let me point it out.
Yeah. So I took them down, but I still have them in frames.
It's nice.
I know.
I mean, but they're so significant. It is so significant. Like what did you say? There's 1,000 books or
1,000
more books
have been written about the assassination.
Crazy.
At least 90%, which think that it was a conspiracy, and basically the conspiracy is that it was all including like the CIA, the mafia. The sitting Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, the Cuban Prime Minister Fidel Castro, because at the same time we were having the Cuban Missile Crisis, where they had asked I don't know if it was Russia or the USSR at that point, but for a nuclear bomb, and they had said yes, and we were like, no, we have one too, and it was this whole thing. So also the KGB, that all conspired to have him murdered. So, and it wasn't just one person. It was like, one to three, because everyone's like, there's no way that Oswald could have made that shot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's like, I mean, I've just, it was so long ago when I actually went and I did the tour, and I went to the repository and things like that. And like, I honestly, I remember looking through the window, because the whole thing is like you're supposed to look through the window and you can barely see where he was actually shot. But I didn't even know where he was shot. Like I had no real context for it. It was like, and the thing, I think there's probably something there, right? There probably is, because like he was progressive, and he was, as I say, the first ever Catholic Protestant president. Whoa.
That's a. What is it? A Freudian slip?
Freudian slip, yeah. And
Protestant president?
Catholic,
Catholic,
yeah,
Andy,
exactly.
Catholic.
Yeah, no, Catholic's Catholic. No, I'm just obsessed with Protestants. And like, so they like, and people like that are dangerous, and like, I know there's a lot about like, how progressive actually was Kennedy, and blah 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 and all that sort of shit, but I am quite sure that he was seen as quite a dangerous political figure, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who would have a vested interest in somebody like that not being president anymore.
Yeah. And I was Googling this specifically, and then it came up with a whole list of other people that have been assassinated, or what's the term that people use now? Unalived themselves.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. And it's a big list, right? It's like Malcolm X and a lot of civil rights leaders, Martin Luther King. So it's that's a whole like Black Hat Man, wormhole, Benadryl thing.
100%.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I don't. I like it's an interesting one, but I think I would like to move on and talk about a few others as well.
Okay,
for sure.
What do you have?
And I'm just conscious of time.
Okay.
Well, like like, I really kind of want to talk about some ones that maybe are. I'm trying. I was like, I wanted to talk about ones that are kind of maybe a bit more chill, and I'm like, I don't know how many of them are chill. I guess like the moon landing is chill, like so many of them are around so much, kind of like fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You know, as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think that like for me probably the most fun one. There's like, okay. I'll talk about one that I really do enjoy because it's a subject I enjoy. But first of all, I think there is there's a guy called John Ronson who has written multiple books, and he wrote probably the most famous book he wrote was the one that was turned into a movie. It was called The Men Who Stare at Goats, and it was about this
George
CIA. And it was about this CIA experiment or whatever to basically find guys who had psychic powers that they could deploy in the field essentially. And like a lot of the book was about the book. Like it was just one of these things. It's like, why has this book been made into a movie? Because it was just like looking into a variety of these different sort of conspiracy theories, and that's what the movie kind of was as well. You know, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. I mean, like, it's kind of also what, like, you know, all of the Indiana Jones movies are about, you know, about Hitler looking for some sort of secret weapon based on, like, conspiracy theories and, like, you know, religious or whatever sort of myths, you know. I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, it's like, that's why we have steroids. Yay!
It's true. Absolutely true. But like, oh yeah, sorry, John Ronson, Men Who Stare at Goats. Okay, so he also did a book called Them, and it was like Adventures of Extremists, and it was talking about basically he spent time with people who both have extreme views, but also people who, you know, had conspiracy theory views. So there's a guy called David Icke, who I don't know if you know about this guy. It might ring a bell once I start talking about it in detail. He essentially was a footballer in the UK, and eventually I don't know whether he initiated it or whether he was the figurehead of a conspiracy theory that basically said that the world is run by a faction of lizard people, including the royal family, do you know this one?
I've heard of the lizard people.
And also it's just a cabal essentially of all the kind of influential top level sort of people. And like, you know, at the time John Ronson was writing this book, he spent some time with him and stuff like that. He saw him doing like shows and he was talking to people and he's spreading these theories and things like that. And like, it was interesting because like, you know, obviously you can only get so much insight when you're talking to these people, and you know, they obviously live in a certain world, you know, based on their views and things like that. And it seemed like he was like a really kind of isolated guy who was kind of looking for a connection, which I think has been the linchpin of my understanding so much of this stuff. It's just, I think, a desire. You know, I think I've talked to you about my theory before, which is that like all sort of things that humans do are based on one of two things: either connection or control, you know, or at least the illusion of control. And I think that that's exactly what this is. You know, it's kind of like, I think so many of these conspiracy theories are people looking for connection, you know, and they're like, here's somebody who's I can chat to about my fun thing, you know. And even if those things can be kind of like insidious at times, you know, it's like a group that you can become part of, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the lizard people. It's got its own Wikipedia page. Reptilian conspiracy theory. They have a diagram of what the reptile looks like versus what the human looks like.
Right, and like so the whole idea was essentially they wore. Yeah. Oh, really? I haven't seen that. Like they have, because like the whole thing was that they wore skin suits and they would peel the skin suits off, right. And I think that that's like the origins of the, you know, the way they talked about the Democrats eating babies and stuff like that. That's the origins of a lot of that, because that I think, at least anyway, I'm sure it was influential on it, because like, you know, these lizard people ate babies and things like that, and you know, but
like here's a sign someone wrote. It's like, you know, like at some protest, do we really need another reptilian shapeshifter as president? ?
No. I know the reptilian shapeshifter.
This just goes on and on and on. This is the whole thing. Yeah. Wow, Andy.
I think, yeah, so like, I mean, like, you know, I think we could talk about this probably for like 3 or 4 different episodes, but I think we should end with a slightly more fun one.
Okay.
And one which is Roswell.
You're like hitting all my favorites. Yeah.
It's a corker.
So Roswell, that's the same as Area 51, right?
Yep.
Okay, so, and it's on Route, is it on Route 66?
I think it might be close. Yeah,
it's
that's a good
on like
question.
Route 66 or Route 67. So there's a specific area in Nevada?
I think so.
New Mexico.
Yep.
New Mexico. That you're not allowed to go to. There's signs, like they're allowed to shoot you if you cross the fence, basically.
Yeah.
And the theory is that there's some sort of like alien spacecraft that landed there, and that the government has built this entire, compound to research aliens and alien activity. They won't tell you what's actually there, and it's all kind of hush hush, and like you're not allowed to fly planes over it. You're not allowed to, there's no tours, obviously. And if you watch movies like Independence Day, like the aliens are coming and people are like, let's go to Area 51 because they know all the things.
They live there, yeah.
Right. So, have you driven there? Mike has done that like he's driven by the fence, and I feel like I have too. And it's just like, it's weird seeing like you could be shot on sight signs.
Yeah.
And be like, if I made the wrong choice and I like grabbed the fence,
It's true.
What if I was Thor and my hammer was on the other side? I don't know, but
I mean, like he has a certain set of skills that make it harder for him to be killed.
It's true. So I guess like you're asking the bigger question about like, are aliens real?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes. I mean, like I think that is an interesting one. I think that's a whole separate episode. I think, but I think that Roswell is such a fun one. Because it's like,
okay,
it's
Sorry, I'm interrupting. So in Independence Day, which is like the Bible of alien information,
sure.
I feel like the president is like, why did no one tell me about this? Because they like got him to Roswell and they were like, here's the alien ship. And one of the guys was like, well, sir, plausible deniability.
Yeah.
So to go back to your earlier point, that could be it's possible that people have kept a secret and they don't pass that information on.
Yeah.
And it's possible that we have a president in the United States right now that can't keep a secret, and maybe he doesn't know things because of plausible deniability. So
very, very. There's a very good point in both of that. I mean, I don't think that. I think there are big secrets that are kept. I do think that's true. I absolutely do. But like, I think that like the scales that some of these things are talked about would be virtually impossible to like pull off without, But like I think Roswell's just such a fun one because it came at such a like cool time, and like alien craziness and UFO craziness, and like there was all the stuff about is it a weather balloon? What actually was it that was found there? Was there actually a body found? Was it actually an alien body? And all this sort of stuff. And whenever you like, and there has never been any conclusive proof as to what actually happened there. Really, there's not, at least officially, and there's so much stuff about what the Americans were researching at the time. What they have said is that like some of the research that was going on there that went into building the first stealth jets and things like that. So it's like it's impossible to know, and there's a reason probably why they want to keep a lot of that stuff secret as well.
Okay, I'm on Google Earth right now, and I'm Googling Area 51 on Google Earth.
I'm in.
Yeah, it looks like the desert. There's like a runway.
I'm really hoping Beth sees a UFO park somewhere.
Oh, there's it. Yep, it's there. It's circular.
There we go.
Yep. That looks like...
So...
What the fuck is that, actually? What is that? That's weird. Maybe that's a water tank or a baseball field or an alien ship. Hard to say.
So, I think that's a good place to end, right? So basically, Beth and I have conclusively
We
proved
sure have.
that some conspiracy theories, the chill ones that everybody likes, are, true. Especially the ones relating to aliens.
Aliens are
But
real.
we just need to make sure that Will Smith doesn't do the first introduction to them. Nope. He has history of punching both aliens and humans, or slapping them.
Welcome to Earth, bitch.
Well, yeah. It's so funny. So yeah.
I think I've seen that movie a few times.
I talking about this now. I need to rewatch it. It's been so long. But yeah. Any other thoughts on this, Beth? Before we start wrapping things up.
Keep it interesting, people. Keep coming up with these creative ideas because it's fascinating and I love it.
I agree. I would say be chill about it, but absolutely go nuts. Just have
and
nice
if you
time,
have anything like the Benadryl Hat Man, please send it to us because I just need to know all the things.
Yeah, and just check for me in my Benadryl Hat Man t-shirt. Probably.
How many Benadryl do I need to take?
We'll do research. We'll do an all Benadryl episode. Just Beth and I and Benadryl losing our minds.
You see the man yet?
He's there.
Okay.
All right, love it.
Yep.
Okay, so on to the final part of our episode, our favorite bit, as always. What has been bringing you joy this week?
Severance.
Yes.
Did you finish it?
Yep. I did.
Did you it was good. It was good. It was good.
It was great.
It was great.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked season 2. I think how they built out the world is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the ending was the only way. I'm not going to spoil it in case anybody's listening, but the ending I think was the only way they could have feasibly done anything more with it. I think in terms of season 3, but I am hopeful that they don't do too much more because I think that it's going really well so far. So maybe 3, maybe 4 seasons max. I hope. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want them to just kind of friggin' let this thing run and then it just collapse.
So there's I was in the blogs reading about it because I was like, there's got to be more to this, right? There's got to be some basis of the book that you recommended where it's there's a story that keeps being told over and over, and that's what becomes all the movies that we watch. So basically, it's the Orpheus myth, mm-hmm. Where he's in love with. Well, this is really long. Anyways, he's in love with somebody. Hades is I love her too, but if she follows you back into the upper world and you don't look back to see if she's there, she can go with you. If not, then I'm taking her with me. And so it's right? It's that, and he does look back, and she right? Because he's still one person, but it's I don't know. I like that. I like that someone made that connection.
That's very cool. I think that's a really good one. I could see the influence absolutely. Yeah. I like that a lot.
I'm they couldn't have just come up with this idea all by themselves. They're right. I love Ben Stiller, but I love his work so much. But there's no way. There's new ideas.
Apparently the guy. This is true. It's all just stories being retold in a different way.
Which is fine.
But exactly. But I think that apparently the guy who brought this to Ben Stiller has it completely put together. He knows the story he wants to tell and has had it together for years now apparently, which is why they were so excited to do it, because it was it's a complete concept. It has a beginning and it has an end. So I'm and I think that it's going great so far. So I'm excited. I hope they really kind of stick the landing, Yeah. But it's been wonderful so far.
So good.
No, I'm glad you're enjoying
it. Yeah. So, what about you?
Another show for me. I'm so happy The Righteous Gemstones is back.
I need to watch it.
Good.
Really?
You do need to watch it. I think...
I heard PETA was talking about mailing the cast monkey shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's talk of monkeys being on the show or monkeys in a trailer.
Oh.
And so they were
all sorts
they
of
were
shit.
Posting photos of boxes of monkey shit. And I was this is amazing.
I think that because you talk about like you find stuff that Mike would enjoy. I genuinely think he would enjoy the humor in it,
Okay.
and I think that like because like
I
you
love
said
the
you just
cast.
enjoyed the other Danny. Yeah, and like here's the other thing that I love about that show. I mean, it's just great to have it back. I think it's very funny. It's a sense of humor I really enjoy, but every outfit in that show is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It just picks them so well. It speaks to the characters so brilliantly,
It's like
so often.
Sunny and Cher, where Cher's like,
It-
wearing her Bob
just
Mackie
speaks-
outfit.
Yeah, it just speaks to the character. It just you see the outfits and you're like, that's exactly what that character would wear. And it's perfect. It's so funny. But yeah, incredible stuff.
Okay.
And I'm so happy it's back.
Good.
But yeah,
Good.
love it. All right, Beth, could you let everybody know where they can find us?
We are on bendypodcast.com and all channels that you could possibly think of. So find us wherever you need to and tell your friends.
All of them.
And your family.
All right, folks. Yes, exactly.
And your dogs.
And enemies, as we described before,
Right.
and dogs, yeah. All right, folks. In that case, as always, we'd like to remind you to stay Bendy.
I totally had a burp stuck. Ugh.
I lost my nerve there. It went longer. Boo. All right.
Too long.
We
All
love
right.
you. Bye.